Welcome to the podcast, where something is amiss, something is a mess, and we'll discuss some things MS, multiple sclerosis. This podcast is meant to tell the stories of those living day to day with MS, from before they were diagnosed, getting that diagnosis, the aftermath, and where they are today in their journey with multiple sclerosis. And now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Some Things MS.
And welcome to Some Things MS. It's a podcast where we're talking about multiple sclerosis and set out to tell the stories of folks living with MS, but also the folks that are supporting those living with MS. And that's where we are today. We've got Vega, and I meant to ask you how to pronounce your last name officially, so I'm just going to let you say it out loud because I'm not going to try.
It's Brhely.
Brhely. I knew it, but I still, it's like had this nervousness, and I just did this on stage last week for a big event, and I had to introduce 5 people, and one gal is Italian. Her name is, I'm going to mess it up right now. It's Riviezzo, and I asked her 5 times, like literally right before we're getting ready to go on live. I was like, what is it again? She's like, Riviezzo. I was like, I was blanked. It was like a complete blank moment, so.
It's one of those things where people see my name and they're like, can I buy a vowel?
Like saying Ray when I worked for Ray Sportswear, and people would call up and they would say, is this Bobby with? And there was always a pause, and then they would say, you. It was just like every vowel sound came out. Yes, too many vowels in a row. And yeah. Well, welcome, Vega. We appreciate having you on and talking to you about how you're involved in the cause. Let's start real quick. Just tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the MS side. What are you up to?
Cool. Thanks for having me. It's really an honor, first of all. And my name is Vega Brhely. And I'm a professional bike fitter and acupuncturist, and I own Hill Climb Acupuncture and Bike Fit, which is where I am right now.
Awesome.
I also am president and founder of Inspire Cycling, which is a women's cycling collective here in the Roaring Fork Valley. I live in Basalt, so I'm not on the Front Range with all of you fun people, but I'm still in Colorado, so yeah.
Nice.
That's me in a nutshell.
I love it. Yeah, so you're doing a lot of biking in general. How did you get hooked up with Bike MS?
Long story.
I love long stories.
It's not really that long of a story, but so I went to grad school in Chicago, and I've been riding bikes forever. Bikes are my passion, and I also love to help people, which is why I went to school for acupuncture. And while I was in school for acupuncture in Chicago, I joined a group called Team to End AIDS, and we did big long charity rides, and it was a fantastic group of people that I just found my community there. And I thought, I'm going to ride my bike anyway. I might as well ride my bike and raise funds for a good cause. And so when I moved to Colorado in 2012, I didn't there was no Team to End AIDS. There was no real I didn't really find any charity rides, and I was working at the Bicycle Village in Boulder, which RIP, they're not around anymore, but somebody had come in. I
was just say I love Bicycle Village. There was one in Littleton too. They were my favorite bike shop local. Yeah, for a long time.
We were nice. So somebody had come in with a flyer for Bike MS, and this was, I believe, 2016. And my uncle Bill had passed away 6 months earlier from primary progressive MS.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh, this is an MS ride. I had never heard of it before. I thought I have a direct connection to multiple sclerosis, and I love to ride my bike. So I signed up. It was the week before the event, and I signed up, and I raised $1,200 in that week.
That's awesome.
So I showed up to the ride, and I think I strong-armed them into giving me a high rollers jersey.
You brought in your bags of cash. It's like, you need to let me in.
I was like, hey, I raised all this money in a week. Can you give me a jersey?
I love it.
So, that was my first MS ride, was in 2016. And on that ride, I met Chris McDonald,
I love this story. I just it's such a cool connection how it just kind of rolled
Yeah.
right through serendipitously into our team.
Yeah, and you guys, the way I met Chris, I really want to talk about it just because I want him to feel shamed again.
Yeah, let's hit it. Yeah, run that story right on out.
um,
Shame alert! Shame alert!
shame, shame, shame. No, it's fine. It's I was being a jerk. I was the one being a jerk. I was racing bikes, so like I have all of this experience and etiquette with group rides, and I think he was sucking my wheel for like 10 miles, just like sitting on my wheel, letting me pull him and not saying anything. And I'm like, this guy is so rude. He needs to take a turn. And I finally turned around and yelled at him. I was like, it's really rude to suck a wheel without taking a turn. And he was like, gosh, I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
And we ended up doing the double metric century that day. So by
Yeah.
the end of the day, we were like best friends. So
Usually Chris is riding so fast he's ahead of everybody, so he can't suck. It's just unusual that he
yeah,
met somebody of his match that he could actually pull off of.
yeah. So that's how I got involved with. He was like, "Hey, join the Coneheads. We're really fun," and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, no, I
So that
remember
was
that
that.
distinctly. Yeah, yeah, I think you showed up at our, wherever we were hanging out at the after event, and yeah, and that's been said and done. That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that story. That's a great story. I didn't know the first part, so it was really interesting to hear about your uncle and
Oh.
how long was he, if you don't mind, if you know, how long he had he been diagnosed, and how long did he live with MS?
So as far back as I can remember,
Yeah.
so this was the mom's uncle. He was my like great uncle.
Okay.
And so when I was a kid, like Uncle Bill was always around. He was super nice guy, very friendly, very funny, really genuine, um and I knew he had MS, but I didn't know what MS was.
Yeah.
And because he had primary progressive MS, he deteriorated very quickly. And yeah, I think I was maybe, 10, 11 years old when
Mm.
he was in a wheelchair and could no longer like feed himself.
Yeah.
And so as a child, I was just scared of him. I did because I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know why Uncle Bill like talk, couldn't talk to
Yeah.
us and couldn't do things. And um, it was just, scary as a child. And then obviously I went to school for acupuncture and I had a lot of medical training and then realized how MS works and what happens to the body, especially with primary progressive MS. And yeah, he passed away in 2015. So
Mm.
um, I have so many people in my life that are living with MS. My best friend from high school was diagnosed. Um, I think she was 26.
Wow.
So she's living in Las Vegas, and I keep hoping for Bike MS to bring that ride
Do a
back
Vegas ride.
because
That'd be a fun ride. Yeah.
yeah, they used to do that and they closed down the strip and do it, and it
Yeah.
has been years. So um, yeah, my best friend from high school, Christina, a good friend from Milwaukee, Nick, my friend Nick, my favorite professor in grad school was diagnosed with MS after I
Yeah.
moved to Colorado. Um, I've got, and then clients like Joey, and yeah, I've got more acupuncture clients. So I
Yeah.
just know a lot of people
Yeah.
with MS for whatever reason. It's just been something that's always been in my life.
That's changing. So stepping back just a little bit, I was just thinking as you were talking about your uncle, the more we and this goes beyond obviously MS, but the more people are comfortable talking about their situations and and breaking down that barrier and that onus, the better. And that's why it's why I set out to do this, and why I'm happy to have you on, and just continue the conversation, so that, because not just as a kid being scared, but also just people feeling awkward or unsure how to approach a person in a wheelchair or in the situation where maybe they can't speak. But when you know more about it and where they are, and knowing that, hey, they it makes it easier to communicate that. And
Exactly.
and you're right. There's so many. I mean, even myself, when I was diagnosed, it was like once you come out and start talking about it, and you're aware of it, and more people are talking about it. The community opens up broad.
Hmm.
It's amazing to me. Like, I've done, this will be uh, probably 15 episodes of this podcast that I've recorded, and across the board, it's amazing how people just he's like, oh, and I started finding out this person, like I said, my professor and the guy at the grocery store when he asks why are you wearing that jersey, I have, it just opens up and opens up and it just keeps flowing. That there's very few people that don't know somebody that very personally that has MS.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you've been riding since 2016. So this will be your eighth ride this year. Or have you done any others or just at Colorado?
This will be my 10th bike MS event,
Okay.
my ninth year doing Colorado. I
Okay. You
did the Harmon's Best Damn Ride in Utah a few
That's right.
years ago. They usually schedule it the same weekend as Colorado, but that year it was the week before. So I drove up to, northern Utah, rode the Century Ride on day one, and
Hmm.
whatever it was on day two, drove back, and then drove to the Front Range immediately to do
Yeah.
the next Century Ride for
Awesome.
MS in
And
Colorado.
so you're just to be transparent, you're an awesome fundraiser. You said it out of the gate. You were bringing like I brought in. I think my first fundraising effort was like my own money for Walk MS. It was like a couple $100, and then I slowly, gained a strong donor base. But you're a top fundraiser every year. You've met the passport. Have you thought about any other passport rides?
Oh, I would love to do a bunch of different rides, but my business is very busy in the summer,
Yeah.
so that kind of limits me to when I can travel for a ride. Last year we actually stopped at the Seattle ride to say hi to people because we were coming back from
Oh,
a
cool.
Whistler trip. So we
Yeah.
stopped and saw Chris and Craig and the
The
Seattle
team up
crew.
there. Yeah, that
Yeah,
team has grown. I mean, it
it
started
is.
4 or 5 years ago with just Ted and one other person or two, and then Craig and maybe Chris went up for it too. But yeah, there are just locally are at about 15 people, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe if the timing works out, I can do that one.
Yeah, this is the first year I'm actually doing a passport ride. I'm
Yeah.
that's not true. I did one a couple of years ago in Maryland, but I'm doing one in Virginia, not this weekend, but the next weekend. So it's called the
Oh,
Colonial
cool.
Crossroads. Yeah, it should be a. I'm hoping because don't tell anybody. It's been tough training with the weather and travel. I may or may not have been on a bike yet. We'll outside. I've been inside, but it's so different, right? I
It
mean,
is very different.
yeah, very different when you're in your basement on a dumb, upright as opposed to climbing hills. Because I'm not yet in the Swift territory. Like I don't have the cool equipment that can emulate, even simulate something of a hill.
Yeah.
Um, but I am riding. It should be a pretty flat ride, which means a lot of pedaling, obviously, but not a lot of hills. But
Yeah.
it's on a trail that goes from Richmond down to Colonial Williamsburg,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's all like canopy covered trail, like just along the river. It should be a pretty, as long as the weather is good, it should be a really nice afternoon ride back and forth.
Is it one
Um,
of the Rails to Trails paths,
I
do you
think
think?
it is. It's I think there's a name for it. It's like the Virginia Capitol Trail or something. It rides something that would have been like a path in the colonial times and
Cool.
back in the day. Yeah. So it looks. I've driven up the road which is next to it in parallel, and I thought, wow,
Mhm.
that'd be a cool trail to ride. And then I got back, I was like, oh, this is actually a destination trail that people ride. It's like a 50-mile stretch that people ride. Just because
Very
it's a
cool.
cool ride. Yeah, I have that one going, and I'm hoping to do Deception Pass someday. It just hasn't worked out, so that would be on my list too.
Yeah.
And then maybe again, there's lots of fun rides. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who's like, oh yeah, you should do the Georgia ride. It's really cool. Or
Mm.
one of the coastal rides would be neat. Maybe just either California or Florida.
Yeah, there's one in
Um,
Florida that I'd like to do because we've got friends that live right in the town that it starts. So,
yeah.
but again, travel
I,
during the busy season when I'm
yep.
fitting bikes, it's hard to
Yep.
do.
Totally get it. Yeah, and then in time it's just that, you got to plan a trip and figure out. Like I had to rent a bike. You got to figure all that out.
Yeah.
Unless it's really close. So you've done 10 rides. What do you think the most rewarding thing you've seen on a ride?
Mm.
Or scenario that you can think about.
So I'm going to give a little background for this first. Joey, who Bouchard, who you had on, I think episode 7.
Yeah,
Um, Actually, I met him in 2017. He came to me for a bike fit 2 days before Bike MS on a borrowed bike that was about 3 sizes too big.
been
So
there.
so we actually picked a bike out for him on the
Oh,
floor. Like it was the only bike that fit him.
awesome.
So that was what and it happened to be like a white and orange bike. He was really excited that it was orange, like the Bike
I love
MS
it.
orange.
Yeah,
And and he had told me, I knew his story. I knew, he had MS and muscular dystrophy, and we, set him up as best we could for success for this ride. And he told me he had never finished the ride. And so it was in 2018, I believe. I came up behind him during a Bike MS ride, and like whenever I run into Joey, it's like a really happy moment. I
yeah,
love that man. And I came up behind him struggling up a hill, and I kind of put my hand on his back and pedaled and helped him, help push him up the hill. And somebody got a couple pictures of it, which um I like love. I put it on my fundraising page every year. And I happened then to, so I kept riding because I was going faster. I just kept riding. And when I finished, I don't know how it happened that way, but I just happened to be standing there when he crossed the finish. And it was the first time that he had finished both days of Bike MS. And I think we both just hugged each other and started crying. And it
yeah,
was one of the most special moments that I can ever remember, just like seeing the accomplishment on his face. And um, just knowing that, that I had a small part in helping him get there. So
yeah.
that's
that
my
is
that's my
that
favorite
picture is one of
story.
my yeah. That picture is one of my favorites. I use it transparency in in things before too, just either online, just to share the story of just that, just what a community this is, and how
Hmm.
here's a person you've met a couple times, and then you're just there. And if you hadn't known him, you probably would have done. If a person's struggling, you just it's like that's the
Yeah.
way people are treating people out there. And man, the finish line is just so powerful. I would say if you're watching this and you haven't just stood at the finish line and just do it for 15 minutes, just take your relaxing moment there when you're done, and just watch the people that because you're going to catch one of those moments every 15 minutes. Somebody
Yep.
coming across for the first time. Maybe it's not even the first time. Maybe it was just a struggle time, and it hits them. And yeah, it's hard for me not to get emotional even now, just thinking about all the different people I've seen do this and their emotions coming across, and knowing that yeah, it's like maybe they have MS and they're finishing for the first time, maybe they don't and they're just supporting, but it's just so much um energy in that, that for me, and that's definitely my favorite thing.
Yeah. It's great. It's great.
Yeah,
I think the Bike MS, the energy and the volunteers, the participants, it's unparalleled to
yeah,
anything else I've ever, been a part of. So
yeah,
every year I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not going to do Bike MS this year because it's so much for me to take days off and drive to the front
yeah.
range and do, but I can't step away from it.
We appreciate you
I
for
just,
that. I know as that's again what a commitment. I mean, you're traveling in for it. I'm here in the city, and you're traveling in for it, and a lot of folks do that. That's just again another awesome testament to the commitment to this cause.
mhm.
So in ten plus Bike MS rides, what's the craziest thing that's happened to you, or what's you like when you think about this ride? Man, I never want that to go that way again.
Oh God. There was one year, I think Chris, because we always ride together, me and Chris and Kit, and we're kind of like our little speed pack. And there was one year, I think Chris had 4 flats on the second day, and the
Oh, no.
and the last one he blew the sidewall on his tire.
And that was it.
It was like one of the marshals on a bike happened to have an extra tire with
Oh,
him.
cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was fabulous. But that was like
Yeah.
we couldn't believe it. It was like every 10 miles Chris was getting a flat. Um
I thought it
yeah,
was
that
going
was
to be the
probably
time you
my
dropped your phone taking a
Oh, I
selfie.
forgot about that.
because I was there for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucked. It was a good picture though.
At least the picture survived, so that's a good
Yeah, the
thing.
picture
It made it to the
survived.
it made it to the cloud just as it was hitting the ground. It was like upload complete. You know?
Yeah, I shattered my screen on that one.
Oh man,
You were wearing your tutu.
I have my
It was
tutu.
such a
Yep,
good it was such a
yep,
good photo, and then I
yep.
dropped it.
I'm excited. I'm gonna travel with the tutu because we're riding day one in Richmond. It's the actual it's Richmond's. It's their start of their Pride Month, so
Oh,
they're so
awesome.
Pride Day is June 1st in Richmond. So that'll be fun. So I'll kick that off down there.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd say probably for me, I've had similar. I'd say I've done everything from the first year I rode it in Colorado. I caught a um a crack in the in the concrete and pavement, turning a corner, and it was one of the situations where there were people cheering on the corner. It was a just a turn to get to lunch. Lunch was about a mile down the road, and a bunch of people with the cowbells and volunteers clapping. And so I kind of just took my eye off the road for a minute as I was waving and thanking them and getting over to make my turn, and I got caught in the groove between the cement and the pavement. And next thing I knew, I came out of it, but my bike was all wobbly, and I was heading to the curb and just slammed the curb and
Oh,
up into a signpost on my shoulder.
oh
And
my.
luckily, I felt like, man, I'm telling you, I felt like I was in slow motion because I had enough awareness to get myself tucked, and so I took the brunt of it on my muscle instead of if I hit like upright, it would have broke my collarbone because I came in pretty hard and it was just a straight metal post and up into this bank of rocks, uh, where a Burger King bank of rocks up to the building. And I think I just kind of blacked out for a second because it just whatever, and I kind of laid up and didn't even know what happened until I kind of pieced it all together. And I looked around, and there were six people sitting on the hill that had done the same thing. This crack
Oh
was outrageous,
no.
and they just didn't clock it going in. It was just a miss on the logistics probably. And then
That's
they were closing at that point after after six people were up in the gravel and laying out with various injuries. They had people moving around, but I tell you what, I think the worst was a couple of years ago when we just got back from COVID. It was the first ride back. We did day one, just 1 day ride,
oh, the
and
rain.
that rainstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got caught in there. There's a section that rides from the lunch, and it's just one shot south,
Yep.
on a road that there's no shelter, there's nothing, there's no pull offs, it's all farmland, and it was just pouring rain, and like
Yeah.
going up a hill, there was literally 2 or 3 inches of rain coming down the hill that I was riding through. There was no stopping. I was like, I just got to grind, get to the next stop. I had a rain jacket on, but that thing was raining so hard, it was drenched. It was just it was beyond capable of holding out. And I finally got to the rest stop. I was on the verge of hypothermia, and
Yep.
they what they do is they throw you into the porta potties because it's the warmest spot they can put you in. So it's like you just go to the porta potty and sit there until I tell you. So I did, and got back out and I was ready to get back on the bike and but I was like, I'm ready to go. And they're like, no, you're getting in that truck over there and we're taking you back. So it was probably the only time I've had to sag out due to health.
Well, I
And
remember because you got back and you got in my car.
Yes, I
We
got
turned
back
the
and you
heat
were there and
on.
we got the because I just once I
You were
got to that
still freezing. You were like
yeah, and
little
I've been in a
popsicle.
truck for probably an hour because we didn't go right back. They wind around, make sure not pick anybody else up. I had the space
Yeah.
blanket on in the truck with the heat, and I still couldn't shake that. And yeah, except we got back, and it was
Yeah.
still a little kind of cool, but it was warm enough in the sun. I couldn't shake it. So
Yeah, I
yes,
remember that.
we sat in your car and had peanut butter sandwiches or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
and waited for folks to get back. Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah.
there was one year that I had shoulder surgery like 5 months earlier, 5 months prior to bike MS, and the week before I stabbed myself with a knife cutting a sweet potato, like
Oh man.
severed the ulnar nerve and everything.
Oh.
And I did the ride like with this weird like my shoulder hurt, my hand hurt, and we were riding and like every bump I'd start to cry because I was in
Oh
so much pain
yeah.
and Kit and Chris were like, you need to like cut off because I wanted to do the century, and I was so set on I'm going to do the century, and they're like, "You're not doing the century. Like, do you want to ride tomorrow? You
Right.
take the 80-mile route." They wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't let me go the century ride because
Some
yeah,
days
so like
you
yeah,
do have to fight to ride another day.
yep.
Mentioned COVID, so yeah, again, what an awesome thing. You didn't make it down for the COVID year. We got I was actually running captain point that year for our team locally, and
Mm,
kind of had a feeling leading in, as COVID was unfolding, right? We were getting ready in January and February doing team stuff, and then as things started to escalate, uh, kind of had a feeling we wouldn't be riding the ride, talking to the team at the society locally, and they were still in a wait and see mode, but eventually, obviously, it got canceled,
yep.
and we, as a team, decided to hold our own ride, which you did up in your area. We did one down here, 2 days.
Mhm.
Got a pretty good turnout. It's an interesting photo. If you look at our team photo, everybody's 6 feet apart, basically, with masks on, mostly.
Yep.
Um, and so, yeah, that was an interesting year. So again, what a commitment to get that going up there. And you, like you said, yeah, you have 5 or 6 people ride up there.
Yeah, one of the other Coneheads and a couple friends who hadn't done an MS ride before came, and another local friend, and we rode 120 miles on the first day, and I think only 50 on the second day, but yeah, we put together a pretty fun route, and
Awesome weekend, yeah.
yeah.
And so that leads to the next thing I kind of run over real quick is that like me, I think you held out but got COVID at some point. I didn't get COVID until 2022.
Yep, it
Like
was
it was early
October.
2022 for me.
So I held out until October 22.
Yeah,
So it was like it was actually 19 months ago today,
yeah.
that I
And
got
so
COVID.
mine, I was in it for a while, and it definitely for me it exacerbated my MS symptoms. Probably mostly was the biggest thing that I felt out of it. Aside from the typical symptoms, I didn't have any breathing issues, luckily, but I did have
Mm.
a lot of fatigue and pain and other things related. But you had a different experience. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, COVID changed my life. Um, I was diagnosed with long COVID, um, after getting COVID, in October of 2022. It became really clear by like mid-December that I wasn't getting better. I had such severe brain fog that I
Mm,
couldn't, like, I would look at, in the refrigerator to make a grocery list, and I'd be looking at the head of lettuce, and I couldn't think of what the word for lettuce was. Like that kind
wow.
of brain fog. I couldn't picture my boyfriend's face in my mind. I couldn't have a conversation. I didn't work for 4 months, because the brain fog was so bad. The fatigue was so severe that I I would I got up to use the bathroom and I almost passed out brushing my hair. Um, I'd have to sit down in the shower. Um, it was a while. It was about like 4 months of very, very, very severe, like I can't work
Yeah,
type symptoms. Um, dysautonomia, so blood pressure would be all over the place. I'd get dips and I'd pass out or be on the verge
wow.
of passing out. I'd get like spikes and see stars and get headaches. My pulse was just all over the place. I'd go. My resting pulse was still in the low 50s like normal, but as soon as I stood up, it would spike into the 130s, which
Wow.
for an athlete, that's alarming.
Yeah,
Um, so I dealt with that for months, and being a healthcare professional, I immediately looked at what are the studies, what are people doing, what are the treatments. There are no treatments. There's still no treatments. It's
yeah,
we're how many years into it and there are no treatments. They don't really have an idea, of they have theories of what causes long COVID, but it's so different in every individual that they don't have there's no treatment.
yeah.
And so I would like look at these research, studies when I could actually read and see, okay, they're testing this, supplement or this supplement, or and so I'd go and try that, and I did everything. I got acupuncture, I did like red light therapy, I did I went and saw a functional medicine practitioner. I took everything that was ever suggested. Nothing helped. And it was about, I don't know, 5 months into this, I was kind of working part-time. Um, I had an opportunity to travel abroad, and I went and I like wore my N95 everywhere. My friend was making fun of me, like, why are you wearing an N95 in the, you know, in the cab? And I'm like, because
Yeah.
I don't want to get COVID again. I have long COVID.
Yeah.
Wore an N95 everywhere, planes, public transit, restaurants, everywhere, and got back from that trip and tested positive for COVID. So 5 months later, here I am again, and I was so scared that it was gonna, because I was starting to make progress. I was
Yeah.
so scared that this was gonna set me back to like ground zero. And
Yeah.
the second time I didn't get as sick, and I actually started seeing more improvements after that. But
Interesting.
then I got to a point where it was like a plateau, and I've
Yeah.
just been in this kind of gray space for a year, well, a little less than a year, um, where I like can't do the things that I love. I can't really ride my bikes in the way that I've always ridden my bikes. I can't, for a long time it was like I couldn't ride. If I rode one day, I couldn't ride for two more. Would have to rest for 2 days. Um, so it's just been a long haul of not feeling like myself at
Yeah.
all. And I would imagine it's very similar. Like some of the symptoms are very similar to MS.
Yeah.
The fatigue, the post-exertional malaise, um, I mean, the brain fog was horrendous. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that that went away. That went
I
away
mean,
after I got COVID the
I
second
say
time.
interesting because I mean you're already empathetic to a cause like MS. It's not like you needed to learn a lesson or anything like, oh wow,
No,
now I know how it feels. Like you had so many people you
I
knew,
haven't even knew.
but what a deeper understanding though. Like you said, I mean when you were talking about that, that was I just had like a visceral flashback to when I was pre-diagnosis. I work in IT. I use much of my job is my brain. I'm doing,
Yeah,
network admin stuff, programming, a lot of brain work, and that the week leading up to my kind of my initial start of my diagnosis path, I was in meetings with my boss, and we'd go to this meeting, and she'd say, "Do this, blah 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 blah," and I'd go back to my office and sit down and go, "I don't even know what just happened." And I would walk. I can remember walking back in sheepishly, going, "Allison, I apologize. We need to go over this again, and I need to make some better notes. I'm not sure what I need to do here. I'm having some kind of issue." And I thought it was lack of sleep because I had some restless leg stuff at night leading up to it, which is probably MS related. But I just couldn't sleep well, and I wasn't sleeping at all. So I thought I'm just not feeling well because I'm not sleeping. It hadn't hit me. It could be something more at that point. But boy, what a flashback to what you just mentioned. It's like you're doing things and you're looking at something like, I know this green lump is something I should know. It's lettuce.
yeah.
Help me out. Sesame Street. I need somebody. To point out what these basic things are in life, because this fog is real. And I obviously know a lot of people who have gone through the similar long COVID, and again, different symptoms, much like MS.
Yeah.
It's not the same for every person. Everybody's got a slightly different path because there's likely some neurological component to whatever the COVID after effects are having.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild. But you're doing
Yeah.
better now. You're back to. I know you're back to a little more bike riding and.
It's This is fresh. This is
Mm,
fresh.
yeah,
About five weeks ago, I started. It was like one day I woke up and I felt like myself in my body again.
yeah.
And so it's going to be a long journey to get back to, fitness and
Do you still feel a
um
little reticent though, and like jumping right? Like I feel good. I'm jumping right back on. I'm going 100%. Is that where you are, or are you like a little bit reserved?
I'm trying to be a little bit reserved because I know, like, if I go straight into like the way that I always did things, that was not healthy to begin with. Like, their rest days are important. They're
Sure enough.
essential for your body to heal. So I'm taking it a day at a time, and I'm really so incredibly grateful to be able to, move my body again, because that's
Yeah.
just so essential to my mental health, my well-being,
Yeah.
who I am. There a year and a half, I really questioned, who am I without bikes?
Yeah.
Who am I? What do I like? I don't even know. So like there's, I guess there's a weird little silver lining to that, where I got to do a very deep deconstruction of who
Yeah.
Vega is, and reinvent a little bit. But yeah, I would not wish that on anybody. I mean,
And
I still sleep with oxygen, and like there's still little things like I know, I'm, but I'm hopeful that I'll get to 100%.
yeah. And that's a
So
common story too with folks with MS. I've talked to again a number of people, and it's that moment of clarity where he's like, I've got to, I'm not going to succumb to this disease. I'm going to reinvent myself within it and keep moving forward. And whatever paths are opening up for me, I just need to keep, finding them and scratching away at them so I can understand where I'm headed.
yeah. And
And
honestly, all of you have been kind of my inspiration, because I've seen you all like continue to live your lives, and so thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. And it's also an important point. Like each of us have that. Like I could name off 10 people that same to me. It's like wow, I'm here. I am. And here's this other person who's in maybe a worse situation. Like you said, maybe primary progressive or secondary progressive, but they're out there on their bike or doing this. And it's like that's an inspiration to me. Is like I can, there are paths, and I just need to stay focused on that. So I'm
Yeah.
glad we're all able to find those in life because they're important.
Hmm.
You don't have to do it on your own. There are plenty of great folks out there that are inspirational and there for you. Speaking of, I wanted to step back again to before we get off. Just want you to talk a little bit about Inspire. I love it, and I just want to hear a little bit more about it so that people who don't know about it will know about it.
So, okay, yeah, inspirational, Inspire
Yeah.
Cycling. What do you want to know about Inspire Cycling?
Yeah. So what was the genesis? Like why why women only? Why what do you guys do and how can people get involved?
Um, Great. Okay. So the genesis of Inspire Cycling, when I moved from Boulder to the Aspen area, I when I lived in Boulder, I had hundreds of friends, and most of them were around, cycling bikes. And like I rode with a team called, it was 1020, and then it turned into Petunia Mafia. And I made all these, and that was a women's cycling club. And I made all these really close friends in the bike community because of that. And when I moved up here, the community is really disjointed, and there were no group rides,
Hmm.
there was not any cohesion in the cycling community that I could think of. There's the Aspen Cycling Club, and they do races, but like that's not what I wanted to do anymore. I like moved past that point in my life where I wanted to race. And as a bike fitter, I was doing fits for all these women who were saying, I don't have anybody to ride with. I only ride with my husband and he drops me. I'm intimidated to ride with others because they're really fast, or whatever, whatever
Yeah.
the cause is. And I'm like, I hear this over and over and over. And I'm like, I I am in this unique position where I can connect all these ladies who don't have a connection.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of, and I was selfishly, I wanted to make some friends, right?
Yeah.
So
Not
like
so
I started,
selfish. Yeah, but yeah, great way to do it.
I really like, I'm, I'm an introverted extrovert. I need people. I
I
may
love
be
it.
a little reserved, but like I need people, and just was not getting the people here. And so started Inspire Cycling, and wanted to keep it women's only, just because I've had so many experiences in my life with with bikes, and getting kind of the mansplained,
I was just about to say there's got to be a mansplaining coming up because it's the
yeah,
worst.
like
If I hear
you're
myself doing
doing
it,
this wrong.
yeah, if I hear myself doing it, it's like what? Oh my god!
Yeah,
I'm like I got to back my, bring it on back, Bobby. It's like
yeah.
stop it.
and being a woman in the bike industry, like I've had way more than my share of mansplaining. So,
Yeah.
and like unsolicited advice and like, oh, you're doing this wrong. You should do this instead. And it's like, did I ask you? No.
So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to create a
Nope.
community that was, yeah, exactly, that was really welcoming for all women, all skill levels, um, and just like our number one rule is no slow shaming. And
I
I
love
like
it.
to say we're not going to gear shame you, we're not going to slow shame you. Like we're just here to make some friends and ride bikes. And yeah, we're like at 106 members now.
Awesome. That's great.
It's really rad.
Yeah.
It, yeah.
And so obviously you can just go on the website. I'm going to put a link to the website when I publish
Mhm.
this out in a couple places, and you can just sign up or get information, contact you so they can.
Yeah, it's like registration is $25 this year. It's really low cost.
Yeah.
We only have rides in the Roaring Fork Valley,
Yeah.
but if you're ever visiting the Roaring Fork Valley, like come join a ride. Our
Yeah.
our
It could be the kind of thing where it's a summer thing for somebody. They live in Denver, but hey, you
Yep.
go up for the summer, and at least you'll be on the calendar. You'll know what's happening, and if you're in the area, you'll know you can drop in and be a part of it.
Yeah, the website is really easy. It's inspirecycling.org, and the ride calendar is right on the landing page, so you can,
Awesome.
look at where we're riding.
Yeah, so that's,
So.
I mean, it's cliche, but it's inspiring, and I love that you saw an opportunity and made that connection where most people might just say, oh, that's whatever, that's a good story, or but to actually take it and do something with it is pretty unique and a testament to you and your personality. So,
Yeah.
um, cool. I really appreciate having you on. I've got a couple of I call them, I do this. We started doing this in my work podcast. The gal that I podcast with, she was like, do you mind if we do like a fun, like, quick, question and answer at the end? Just, top of mind, easy questions, but sometimes thought provoking. So I'm just going to throw them at you, and you can answer them as you will or not. You beg off.
Pass.
Yeah, pass. um, so first question: favorite pump up song if you're going up a hill? Like what's on your playlist if you need to get up the hill and get it grinding?
It's a Z track. I really like EDM music. It's a
Okay, yeah,
I can't remember the name of it at the moment right now, but it's got Ellie Goulding. So
nice, yeah.
yeah.
I definitely I probably lean towards rock and roll, but I tell you what, my favorite playlist when I'm riding are 80s music. I grew up with 80s music, and there's something just nostalgic and indelible that it's just like I love. If I could catch Eye of the Tiger at the right moment, it's like I tried one time. You try to plan out a playlist like, well,
Right.
I'll be at this hill by 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. and I can try to line the songs up. No, I can't go yet. I'm waiting. To
Yeah.
get that
Can't go until
song.
my song comes
That's my
on.
song. I'm sorry. um,
I've got a playlist called Get Yoked.
okay, that's
Maybe I'll
funny.
share that with you.
I love it. Yeah, no, and I like EDM music, and there's for like programming, it was perfect for me. Like I love some of that just kind of nothing there, but just something just like just kind of keeps my
Yeah.
mind free
Uh-huh.
of lyrics and things. So I'm just totally focused. Well, for energy, is it goo or is it gummies or is it something else?
Oh, cookies.
Cookies. I haven't tried cookies
I'm
yet.
I
Like
am
homemade
fueled.
cookies or like cookies you buy that have energy
I
things in
am
them.
I am equal opportunity cookie eater. I
just
am
a just a sleeve of Oreos just down the throat on the hill if you need it.
fueled by cookies. If you'll know. Like we go on a search for the famous Amos cookies on the.
Okay. Nice.
There's only one aid station that has famous Amos cookies on Bike
Mhm.
MS. But typically, I'll either have yeah, cookies on rides like Bike MS where there's aid stations. They have cookies, but I typically actually eat peanut M&Ms on my rides.
That's a good. I mean, in life, I justify eating candy and by eating peanut M&Ms because they have peanuts in them. It's like, hey, this is
Yeah,
protein. There's value here, friends.
yeah. There's fat,
This
there's
this
protein,
yeah,
there's
this is the good
carbs.
for you candy, or peanut butter M&Ms. It's probably a little worse because they're adding sugar to that peanut butter. It's not probably.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's technically peanut butter, but that's debatable in another time.
yeah,
um, I know Chris loves the little vanilla wafers with the
yeah.
bananas and the peanut butter. Everybody does. I
Oh,
I
I
miss
miss
those guys.
Yeah, I do too. That was
That
a
was
great aid station.
it was a great aid station. Just you were
The
coming
sugar
down a hill.
beans, I
I
think.
I forget which one it was, but yeah, just love that those
Yeah.
bits. When we did our COVID ride, I the second day I did not. Maybe it was not that year. One of the years we did our own supported ride, and I made those for everybody. So when
Nice.
I was SAG support that on the second day, and so I just decided I'm gonna do it. I just got the bananas. I'm chopping. I got the thing
That's
rolling.
the best. That's
Yep.
the best.
Yep. Well, listen, I really appreciate having you on, and I think this has been a great conversation to share. And yeah, any parting thoughts before we sign off? I look forward to seeing you in just a few weeks
Me
here.
too. I'm really excited. In 5 weeks.
5
5 weeks.
weeks. Yep, yep. And
Um,
hopefully I'll be trained up.
Same. Have fun on your East Coast ride.
My Virginia
Your
adventure. Yeah.
Virginia. Yeah, Williamsburg. Have you been to Williamsburg before?
Yeah, my parents live in Richmond, so
Oh, okay.
it's cool. The ride's starting like 10 minutes from their house. So that's kind of
Awesome.
fun, and yeah, I've technically I've never been to like the historical part of Williamsburg to like look at all the old cool stuff because just on the other side of Williamsburg is Jamestown, which was one of the first settlements
Yep.
and colonies, and so that's just we're actually our I think we have a rest stop in Jamestown, which is kind of fun.
You can
Um,
put yourself in the locks.
yeah, put myself in the stockade. Yeah, it's like
Yes,
yeah, get
yeah.
caught there. Yeah. But yeah, so the area is familiar, but I've never been on the bike trail, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. It'll be
Cool.
humid. I'm hoping I'm crossing for the first bike MS I did was in Virginia, and it was in Middle Virginia, and it was 100 degrees out, and it was 100% humidity. It was I mean, you probably know what that feels. It was just outrageous. Like I was
Yeah.
just, I
Gross.
couldn't stop drinking water. Yeah, it was just crazy. And I bet the first ride I didn't know what to expect. I trained a ton. I literally trained over 2,000 miles from the time I could get on a bike outdoors to the time I rode in June. I was riding my bike every day to work, which was like 30 miles. I was riding on the weekend for like a couple hundred miles, just pumping the
Yeah.
miles out because I just had never ridden a bike since I was 18. It wasn't part of my DNA at that point. I was like, I don't know what to expect. And I had this giant Camelback because I wanted to make sure I had enough water because I didn't trust the bottle situation yet.
Yeah.
So I got a giant hump on my back with water, so I kept filling up. Yeah, but luckily I had two bottles and the hump because I went through all that water between stops. And it's only 10 miles, but that's how much
Yeah.
water was going in and out the body, during that ride. So hopefully not that.
Yeah. I hope you have good weather.
Yep. Cool. Well, thanks
Cool.
again, Vega. Look forward to seeing you in June. And until then, take care. And thanks again, everybody, for watching. And look forward to you watching the next
Thanks,
episode.
everyone.